When we work on a new idea or an atypical solution, we often hear, "Well, you're quite an optimist, aren't you? I don't think this is going to work. You know, I'm just being realistic here." Being realistic, grounded, factual, that should be the way to go. No one wants to be a pessimist and associated with a negative image. And at the same time, many think that they can't be optimistic too, because that would mean being out of touch with reality. Often, it's tempting to picture optimists as naive, like they live in a different world, they live in Wonderland, where nothing bad can happen. They deny the fact that things don't always work out in the way we expect them to do. And when reality catch up, optimists just bury their head in the sand. But we don't. We have the courage to acknowledge the world for what it really is. So we called ourselves realists. But then, what should we do with all the scientific evidence highlighting the benefits of optimism? For instance, optimists sleep better. There are also many studies demonstrating that optimism has a positive effect on our immune system. One of them measured the immunity level of elderly adults after their influenza vaccination. Those with greater optimism had a better and greater antibody production. Optimism also links positively with life satisfaction and self-esteem. And the list goes on. So we need to clear a misconception about optimism. There isn't one type of optimist, but two. First type is the unrealistic optimist. These people believe that they are more likely to experience pleasant events than actually the case, and at the same time that they are less likely than others to experience negative ones. For instance, unrealistic optimists believe they are less likely to get into a car accident if they are driving. They are also less likely to use sunscreen to protect them. It's like there is a denial of reality due to an excess of positivity. Things are good even when they aren't. In this case, they don't have the positive effects of optimism. It can even be detrimental when reality strikes and they realize how big the gap is with their expectation. On the other hand, they are realistic optimists. Walt Disney was one of them and used to say, "I always like to look on an optimistic side of life, but I'm realistic enough to know that life is a complex matter." Realistic optimists don't deny the reality of the current situation, even if it's hard and difficult. They acknowledge it. But they also believe that in the future, things will be better. They have the conviction that things will turn out positively. They have hope in the future. And one of the best examples of this realistic optimism came from Dr. Martin Luther King. In his most famous speech, King acknowledged how difficult the current situation was. Even though slavery had been abolished a century ago, he recognized that African Americans were still crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. And at the same time, he had a dream. He had a vision of the future. A better future where little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. He acknowledged his current reality, yet kept hope in his future. Being a realistic optimist allows us to analyze the situation rationally, while having a tendency to expect favorable outcomes. As a pure realist, if you know that 9 out of 10 startups fail and go bankrupt within their first 3 years, why start one? Similarly, in France, more than 85% of the medicine students won't pass their first year exam and fail to become a doctor. So why choose this career to begin with? But every year, many decide to become entrepreneurs or to start studying medicine. Will it make them any better to expect things to fail because that's a realistic thing to do? Optimism gives us an edge at no extra cost. So, how about embracing this mindset? after all, no one is forcing us to be a die-hard realist. We can choose how we want to see the world, and we should choose what makes us grow and thrive. There is a powerful quote from the Austrian Viktor Frankl that illustrates this last point. Dr. Frankl was a neurologist and Holocaust survivor. He wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning, where he described and analyzed his horrible experience in Nazi concentration camps. And he said this: "Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms. To choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way." The wisdom that both King and Frankl share with us is that we have a tremendous power. No matter our current hardships, we have the power to choose the lens through which we see the world and create better tomorrows. This is the power of realistic optimists. If you think this video could be useful to someone you know, please share it. And if you want more, follow me on my social. See you soon!